Hey, this is Corey from New Age Self Reliance, and I was recently at a family gathering, and one of my family members thinks that it is insane that I have a room full of stuff that I don't use. I just have it just in case, right? Just in case I need it, and they think that that's just crazy. They don't understand it, but they are starting to come around. They are starting to realize that, you know what, maybe I do need to be a little bit more self-sufficient. Maybe I do need to be able to take care of some things myself. And so I want to put together a list of 5 tools that a non-prepper needs. Somebody that calls maintenance every time there's a problem. Every time there's a problem with their vehicle, they go to the mechanic, the plumber, the electrician. They're not really a DIY kind of person, but there are some things that you just have to take care of. And so one of the first tools in my list is a channel locks. Why a channel locks? Well, because the channel locks can get to a quite large size, meaning you can, a lot of the valves, shut-off valves for water, whether your toilet's overflowing or a pipe bursts, you don't want to have that happening while you're waiting on maintenance, or have your toilet overflowing while you're waiting for the plumber to show up. You want to be able to take care of that yourself. And a lot of times those valves can stick or they can corrode and they can get really hard to turn. So being able to have something that you can get on there, turn that off, makes life a lot easier. The other thing is it gets big enough to where you can get a P-trap from underneath the sink off. And so if you drop a wedding ring or something down the drain, it's probably stuck in that trap. And you can go in there, take the trap off, fetch that ring. If the clog is usually in the P-trap, so you're taking it out, cleaning that out, can save you a lot of time and money, not having to pay a maintenance person or a plumber to do it for you. And these are all very, very simple things, as long as you have a channel locks that's big enough to grip onto these things. And so I will leave a link to all of these tools in the description box down below, but just know that it doesn't matter the make, model, brand. You can go to Walmart and pick these tools up. If you're not going to be using them all of the time, cheap is fine, right? You don't need to spend top dollar on something that's just going to collect dust that you're going to use once a year maybe. And so don't get too caught up on brands if this isn't your everyday lifestyle. The next thing that I recommend is the thing you're probably going to use the most, and that is a multi-bit screwdriver. This one is from Klein. This is the one you're going to see in the B-roll, and this can help you tighten screws, your pulls on your cabinets, your drawers, the pulls on your drawers, getting batteries out of different things. There's so many reasons to get a multi-bit screwdriver. And like I said, quality, just go to the dollar store or go to Walmart, get one of the little cheapies. The only thing that matters is that you have a number 1 and a number 2 Phillips, a number 1 and a number 2 Phillips, and a flathead. And those 3 screwdriver bits will probably do 90% of everything you're going to be accomplishing. And so just a small, compact screwdriver, multi-bit is my favorite because it's all in one package. You don't have to go looking for different screwdrivers. And so most of what you do is going to require a screwdriver, and so having one that's reliable and easy to get to is very important. All right, so a tape measure is another one of those things where most people don't think about it. They think that it's more for construction workers and people that build things. But honestly, just moving furniture around. If you measure a table and it's 40 inches and then you go and you move the tape measure and realize it's an inch too big from where you want it, it's going to hang past the wall, right? You moving this is a heck of a lot easier than moving the entire table just to find out it's not going to fit and then having to move it back or move it somewhere else, right? If you're going to buy a new fridge, if you're going to buy a new appliance or a new couch or a new cabinet or a new shelving unit, and you see the measurements online and you measure the space that you want it in and it's not going to fit, or sometimes it's too small, you want something a little bit bigger, you know, this thing can save you so much time, money, frustration, you know, and just the idea of, I want to move that over there, right? And then you measure it, and then you go, and it's not going to fit. you don't ever have to think about it again. I don't know how many times somebody has called me because they want to move a dresser from this part of their room to that part, and they need help carrying it because it's heavy, it's a dresser, right? And we pick it up, we move it, and it doesn't fit, and we have to move it back, right? So I drove all the way out there to move a dresser twice because it didn't fit. You know what I mean? If they would have just measured it first, I wouldn't have had to drive out there. They wouldn't have felt embarrassed that I had to move it back. It would have saved a big embarrassment if they had just measured it in the first place. So a tape measure does more than just build things. It helps you rearrange. It helps you understand what it is you exactly need. I highly recommend everyone owning a tape measure. Okay, number 4 is probably my least favorite tool. Okay, I'm not a big fan of a crescent wrench or an adjustable wrench. The reason I don't like them is because they round bolts off. It's very hard to tighten bolts with this without rounding it, and you constantly have to adjust it because you put it on there and you tighten it to the nut, and then you turn it and you can't get it off because it's too tight. So then you got to loosen it, and then you can't turn it because it's too loose, and you're constantly adjusting it. But if you're just doing it every once in a while, if you're putting together a table, if you're putting together something with a nut and a bolt, this will get the job done, right? And if you're just doing it once every few years, you know what I mean? You don't need an entire socket set just to sit around, collect dust for the once a year, once every 4 years you need it, right? This is a small compact tool that you can just carry, throw in a closet with all your other tools. You're not gonna even notice that it exists until you need it. And when you need to tighten something up, this will get the job done. Okay, it's not the perfect tool for the job, but it is the right tool for the job. It does work, and so I highly recommend everyone owning a crescent wrench or an adjustable wrench or an adjustable spanner or whatever you want to call it. Everyone should own one. All right, so in full transparency, honestly, most people could probably get away with those first 4 tools. If you own those first 4 tools, you can probably take care of most of the things that you need to take care of. All of the what-if situations, those 4 tools will get the job done, and you probably won't need anything else. But number 5 is kind of unique because one of the things I don't think you need. I really don't think you need. The other one that I think you need, Caroline doesn't think you need. So I'm going to include them both. You can decide which one is right for you, and then whichever one is right for you, that's number 5, okay? So we'll start with what Caroline thinks. Caroline thinks everyone needs a level. And the reason she thinks everyone needs a level is because when you're putting up posters and pictures and hanging things, making sure they're level is very important. When you're trying to make a sequence of pictures or a sequence of something, making sure it's plumb and level so that it looks right, it doesn't look funny. She just thinks that everybody, when it comes to decorating and making a house a home, a level is what does that, right? If you're putting up curtains or you're putting up blinds, making sure that they're level is important. But honestly, unless you're like putting up blinds, which most people again are going to call maintenance, I don't think that they're going to be putting up blinds or drilling holes into studs, you know what I mean? They're just going to be hanging pictures and posters, and I think most people just eyeball it. And the other thing you'll notice is that there isn't a hammer on this list, and it's because a lot more people are using command strips, and so the command strips are what's holding everything to the walls, because again, they're not using the tools to structurally make things sound. They're not trying to find a stud and use a stud. They're just trying to make their apartment or their home look nice. And Caroline doesn't think you can accomplish that without a level. I think most people just eyeball it, right? Close enough is good enough for most people, especially when you're using command strips. It's hard to level it and stick the command strips to the wall. I believe most people are eyeballing it. Let me know in the comment section, are you somebody that eyeballs it and so it's mostly level, or do you actually pull out and level and make sure that all your pictures are plumb and level? And do you make sequences of things so that everything is gapped perfect and fits nicely together? Let me know in the comment section. And so if you're a person that needs to have plumb, level pictures, you kind of have to have a level. I think the more important tool is a outlet tester. Now, Caroline believes that an average person's never even going to think to use an outlet tester, but that's why you watch my channel, so I can teach you how to use things. I bring things to your attention, and so that you do think about them and you do understand their importance. And an outlet tester lets you do a lot of different things. Recently, my son has a very old laptop. It still has a CD drive, like it's a very old laptop, and he came up to me a couple weeks ago and it wasn't charging anymore. And so I was like, it's old, it probably is done, right? I probably got to buy him a new laptop and money's tight, right? But I went in, and one of my biggest concerns, my house was built in 1920, right? And so I'm always worried about the wires inside the walls. And so I always make sure that the outlets work, okay? So I unplugged the cord, I plugged this into the wall was fine, but it was plugged into it was a strip. It wasn't a surge protector, it was just a strip with multiple plugs in it so that you could plug multiple things into one outlet. And I plugged that back in, I plugged this in, and it didn't work, right? And so the problem wasn't the laptop, the problem was the little splitter that he was using. And that splitter, when I reset it, I don't think it was a surge protector, but when I reset it, the lights came on and then shut off right away. So then I tried it in a different outlet, and again, when I reset it, the lights came on and then turned off. And so whatever was wrong with that splitter. So I threw that splitter away, I plugged his laptop directly into the wall, and it's worked fine ever since. And he's happy with it. And so, not a big deal, crisis diverted. I didn't have to spend a penny to fix that problem. I just plugged it into the wall, and now he has to charge his switch and stuff in a different outlet. But I didn't have to spend any money. I fixed that problem without having to do anything. Just by testing the different components, I was able to deduce what the problem was and save money that way. The other thing is, this was like a couple years ago, but I was using a hot glue gun with an extension cord, and the hot glue gun wasn't heating up. And it's an old piece of junk hot glue gun. I got a lot of old equipment, but it wasn't working. And I was like, it's probably burnt out. It probably isn't going to work anymore. But again, because I live in an old house and I'm always worried about the wires behind the walls, I plugged this into the wall. The wall was fine. I plugged this into the extension cord. It didn't work. I plugged the extension cord into a different outlet. The extension cord still didn't work. There was something wrong inside that extension cord. Something arced or got kinked or something broke inside that extension cord, and the cord was bad, not the hot glue gun. And so again, I just went and I got one of my other extension cords. I went in the garage and got my good extension cord, and I was able to heat up the hot glue and use the hot glue. And again, it didn't cost me anything to fix the problem. And in both cases, if I would have just assumed it was the laptop and bought a new one, it still wouldn't have charged because the laptop wasn't the problem. If I would have went out and bought a new hot glue gun, I still would have the same problem because the hot glue gun wasn't the problem, it was the extension cord. The other thing is, if I buy a new lamp, right? If I buy a lamp and I plug it in and it doesn't work, first thing I do is I test the outlet. Does the outlet work? There was one time where the outlet didn't work, and so I had to swap out the receptacle, and once I swapped out the receptacle, everything worked again. Most of the time, the outlet works, but the lamp doesn't. And so I'm able to exchange that lamp for a different one or return it and get my money back, whatever the situation is. And so I think this is a very important tool. I think it's going to save you a lot of time and save you a lot of money. And I think it's more important than a level. But Caroline doesn't think that most people are going to think to use this. And I don't think most people are making sure that all their pictures are perfectly level. So in the comment section down below, let me know which one of these two tools do you think is the most important. Thumbs up and like this video if you really enjoyed it. If you're going to be gifting these to non-preppers, make sure that you share this video so they understand why they're getting a outlet tester and how to use it. And so, like my video, subscribe if you haven't already, and I can't wait to see you on my next one.